Conor seems a lot more kind of relaxed and chilled in comparison to maybe the first fight and the press conference and the build-up.
Yeah, it's like I said, Andy, he had to tick a lot of firsts off, and obviously it was his first fight in like nearly a year and a half last time. First fight in a big stadium, first fight up at middleweight, and obviously he's had his first loss, so there was a lot of boxes to be ticked, but he's ticked all them boxes off now. He's kind of been there and done it, and the experience he's gained from that first fight.
He needs a certain detachment in himself mentally. He needs to go into this fight with a lot more focus and a lot less hate. Yeah, and that was indicative of the fight. In the last few rounds, Chris won on volume, and Conor was still trying to fuel him out there with one shot. You know, fueled with hate.
Do you think that he can be better in the rematch? My question is also, can you be better?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't really think about what he does or what he can do. You know, he used his tactics well, he used his weight, he used his size, and he come on strong in the later rounds because I felt like he knew he was losing the fight. And yeah, he done well, he done what he needed to do to win. Because ultimately, people saying it's a robbery, saying it's this, it wasn't a robbery, the better man won on the night. And that was due to my lack of discipline.
The first fight between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn was supposed to be a generational clash. The sons of British boxing royalty carrying forward family rivalries into a modern ring. It wasn't just two men fighting, it was history colliding with legacy. And when they finally met, fans got everything they expected and more: grit, drama, and a result that sparked endless debate.
You know, excited to see my cousin in action again. He always brings the entertainment.
Let's obviously start off with that. You mentioned he brings the entertainment. He was certainly the man of the hour up on the stage. He had a lot to say, a lot of kind of revelations, if you will, about what went on behind the scenes from the first fight.
When Harlem Eubank talks about his cousin Chris always bringing entertainment and shining a light on things other fighters won't, he's pointing to a side of Eubank Jr. that goes beyond boxing ability. Chris thrives in the spotlight. He's outspoken, sometimes polarizing, and often reveals the politics and hidden struggles that shape big fights.
Some people kind of question how much of it is true. What can you tell me from what your knowledge? Was all of it true?
From my knowledge as a fighter, you know, in the industry, there's always a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. And Chris is someone that is always going to shine the light on the things that a lot of fighters don't get a chance to talk about.
The first fight against Conor Benn was chaotic before it even happened. Weight disputes, promotional drama, and emotional buildups. Harlem's words confirm that a lot happened behind closed doors that fans never saw. For Chris, though, that chaos becomes fuel. He doesn't hide from the controversy. He exposes it, making himself the lightning rod. And that matters in a rematch, because the psychological edge begins outside the ropes. If Conor Benn was rattled by the spectacle and distractions before, Chris is showing he can control that environment. This isn't just about punches. It's about who can handle the storm before the first bell. That's where Chris has always thrived. The rematch will carry even more pressure, and Harlem makes it clear Chris is ready to turn that pressure into entertainment once again.
I think we see exactly what influence he can have in the Liam Smith second fight. I was training with him out in Vegas as he was preparing for that fight, and I just wanted to go out and see, you know, how...
When Harlem recalls training with Chris in Vegas ahead of the Liam Smith fight, he's pointing to a crucial truth. Chris Eubank Jr. takes preparation seriously. Many critics have questioned his discipline in the past, but Harlem's description of the structured, complete regime shows a different side. For Chris, the Smith rematch wasn't just about redemption. It was about proving he could make adjustments and stick to a plan.
He's preparing, you know, and if he's really serious, and that's exactly what I saw. You know, I saw a regime, a training setup that had everything covered.
That experience carries into the Conor Benn rematch. Harlem witnessed firsthand that Chris isn't just coasting on natural ability. He's evolving, fine-tuning, and covering every base. In the rematch against Benn, that matters because Conor is younger, hungry, and technically sharp. But if Chris is in peak condition, with every detail handled, the physical advantages he holds, size, reach, durability, become harder to overcome. Harlem's insight is important because it dismisses the narrative that Chris only relies on toughness. Instead, he's showing he can build disciplined training camps and learn from past mistakes. Against a relentless fighter like Conor Benn, that disciplined preparation could be the deciding factor.
Conor seems a lot more kind of relaxed and chilled in comparison to maybe the first fight and the press conference and the build-up.
Yeah, it's like I said, Andy, he had to tick a lot of firsts off, and obviously it was his first fight in like nearly a year and a half last time.
Tony Sims, Conor Benn's trainer, reveals how different his fighter feels this time around. Before the first fight, Conor was carrying the weight of firsts. First fight in a stadium. First fight at middleweight. First fight after a long layoff. First professional loss. That combination created an emotional storm, and Conor admitted to feeling the pressure. But Tony makes it clear those boxes have now been ticked.
First fight in a big stadium, first fight up at middleweight, and obviously he's had his first loss, so there was a lot of boxes to be ticked, but he's ticked all them boxes off now. He's kind of been there and done it, and the experience he's gained from that first fight.
Conor has been through the fire once already, and experience changes everything. Fighters who survive that first huge stage come back sharper. The nerves that once consumed them no longer have the same grip. For the rematch, Conor enters not as the wide-eyed challenger stepping into unknown territory, but as a battle-tested fighter who understands the scale. That maturity is huge. Tony's words suggest Conor won't be caught up in the moment or overwhelmed by the spotlight. He knows the weight, the pressure, the cameras, and the energy of a stage. That makes him far more dangerous, because now he can focus solely on the fight itself rather than the environment around him.
Which, like you said, you can see in his demeanour that he's a lot more calmer. I don't think you've got to have any conversation. I think he knows, he'll tell you himself. You know, it was the first thing that he come out with the next day, like he was too emotionally involved and he wanted to just rip his head off. He said,
Tony Sims goes even deeper by highlighting Conor's self-awareness after the first fight. Conor admitted he was too emotional, too focused on hurting Chris rather than executing the game plan. That's rare honesty from fighter. Tony, who has trained Conor since he was 19, insists that his technical ability is brilliant. His boxing brain is sharp. But in the first fight, all of that went out the window. Conor let rage take the wheel, and when that happens, discipline dies. The rematch, however, is different. Tony believes Conor will keep his emotions in check, and that's the key. Discipline. In the ring, discipline separates good fighters from great ones. Discipline keeps your jab working when you want to brawl. Discipline reminds you to move your head when you're tired. Discipline makes you stick to the plan. If Conor maintains that in the rematch, his natural aggression becomes controlled firepower instead of reckless swings. Tony's confidence suggests fans will see a different Conor Benn this time, one who fights with intelligence as well as heart. That combination is dangerous for anyone, even Chris Eubank Jr.
I mean, you have to shine a light on these people, otherwise they keep getting away with all the dark and treacherous things they're doing in the sport. No one speaks up. Everyone's too afraid. Oh, I don't want to ruffle any feathers.
Chris Eubank Jr. himself adds another layer when he talks about exposing the dark sides of boxing and his shift from being the villain to suddenly being seen as the good guy. For over a decade, Chris embraced the role of the man fans love to hate. He thrived on boos, on people paying to see him lose. But now, after showing resilience and honesty, he's attracting respect, even from young fans.
So I ask you, what do you prefer, being the good guy or being the bad guy?
I don't know. I've only been the good guy for a couple of months. You know, 14 years I was the guy that everyone wanted to see lose. So I don't know how I feel about being the good guy all of a sudden. I got little girls coming up to me asking for pictures, and I'm like, what?
That role reversal impacts the rematch because perception shapes narrative. When Chris enters the ring now, he carries not just arrogance, but also redemption. People see a man who stood tall through adversity, who spoke out about injustices in the sport, and who fought with courage. For Conor, that means he isn't just fighting a rival. He's fighting someone the crowd might rally behind. And the mental warfare flips. Chris may still play mind games, but he now carries goodwill, while Conor still wears the chip on his shoulder. That dynamic matters because crowd energy influences fighters, and Chris thrives when he feels like he's the one shining the light in the dark.
After those 12 rounds, do you respect Conor Benn?
Yeah. I have to. The guy went 12 rounds with me. He didn't give up. He didn't quit like so many fighters have done over the past years.
Respect is a powerful theme, and Chris admits he has to respect Conor Benn for going 12 hard rounds with him. That acknowledgement is telling. Chris has fought many opponents who broke under his pressure, but Conor never quit. That earns respect, but Chris quickly adds, respect doesn't mean mercy. He warns that Conor must bring something different to the rematch, or the result will be the same.
I have respect for him, yeah.
Do you expect anything different in the rematch from him?
There better be something different, because if not, it's going to be the same outcome.
This statement sets the stage perfectly. Chris believes he already has the blueprint. He withstood Conor's power, he imposed his size, and he found a way to dominate late. Unless Conor reinvents himself, Chris sees no reason why the script would change. But that confidence also fuels the intrigue. Fighters who respect each other often produce the most intense battles because they know survival is guaranteed. So the question becomes, who can adapt more? Chris expects Conor to bring something new. The rematch then becomes a chess match of adjustments. Respect doesn't soften the rivalry, it sharpens it. Chris has drawn his line in the sand, and it's up to Conor to cross it.
See it, right? I do want to see the rematch. I thought both men looked great in the first fight. I thought Chris Eubank Jr. pulled out a gutsy performance and was able to withstand some nasty, earth-shattering punches from Conor Benn. People talking about his power not carrying up to 160.
Wade Plemons' analysis of the first fight is crucial because it highlights what really made it compelling. Both men look good in different ways. Conor Benn's power has always been his calling card, and many doubted whether it would carry up to 160 pounds against a naturally bigger opponent like Chris Eubank Jr., but Wade's breakdown confirms that Benn did, in fact, land serious shots that rocked Chris. These weren't glancing blows. They were earth-shattering punches, the kind that have stopped other fighters.
It may not against other people, but against Chris Eubank Jr., he was lighting him up with some of those shots. And Eubank not only weathered the storm, but hit him back with even more big shots and then outclassed him on the way to a victory. So it is up to Conor Benn to change the tide here in the rematch.
The fact that Chris absorbed them and kept pushing forward speaks volumes about his durability and conditioning. That's part of his identity. He's built to endure storms and fire back when others fade. The gutsy performance Wade describes shows that Chris wasn't just surviving. He was thriving in the danger zone, trading punches and then taking control. Yet Wade also makes the point that the burden of change is on Benn. Chris showed he could weather the worst and still win. So the responsibility falls on Conor to adjust his approach. That frames the rematch perfectly. One man already proved his formula works, the other must find a new one. The challenge is clear. Conor can't just rely on raw power this time. He has to bring something more or history repeats itself.
The skill gap wasn't bigger than the amount that Conor Benn can make up for maybe a better approach, maybe a more technical approach, a more set-up approach, because throughout the fight, all we watched was Conor Benn throw hammers.
In another observation, Wade points out that Conor Benn's performance in the first fight was too one-dimensional. He came forward throwing hammers, but there was little setup, little jab, and not much variety. That type of approach works when opponents fold under pressure, but against someone as tough and skilled as Chris Eubank Jr., it's not enough. Wade suggests that the skill gap between the two wasn't insurmountable. Benn has the tools to close.
Not a jab work really in total from Conor Benn the first time around. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know if we would be able to see much different from Chris Eubank Jr. in the rematch. I don't know that there's much that he can show us in a rematch that we didn't already see from him.
What's needed is refinement, a more technical, patient, and structured plan rather than headlong aggression. Wade also touches on another key point. Chris may not have many new tricks to show in a rematch. His style is established. Durability, output, combinations, and experience. That consistency works in his favor because fans know what they'll get, but also means the opportunity lies with Benn to surprise. If he adds layers to his game, introduces feints, doubles his jab, and mixes levels, he could disrupt Chris' rhythm. Wade's analysis cuts to the core of the rematch. It's not just about who's stronger or tougher, but who can evolve. And in that sense, Benn has the bigger room for growth. If he makes those adjustments, the rematch could look very different from the first fight.
Statement, isn't it? You're chomping at the bit to get this rematch underway and get camp started.
Oh mate, I'm excited. I live for this. So for me, it's just a matter of going in there this time around and right my wrongs.
When Conor Benn himself speaks about the rematch, his excitement is undeniable. He says he lives for this, and that kind of passion is both a strength and a potential weakness. The fire that drives him is the same force that got him in trouble during the first fight. He admitted to fighting with emotion rather than sticking to the plan. But this time, his focus is on discipline, calculation, and controlled execution. He talks about sticking to tactics, using game plans, and throwing punches in bunches rather than just looking to inflict damage.
In which ways can you be better, do you think?
Just more disciplined. It's a matter of sticking to the tactics and the game plan rather than me going in there and trying to hurt him and inflict pain and damage.
Which is what we're looking at now.
So for me, it's just being more disciplined, more calculated, and punches in bunches.
That shift in mindset is crucial because it shows maturity. A fighter who recognizes his past mistakes and openly commits to change is dangerous. Conor knows he can't just try to break Chris with raw aggression. He needs to break him down with smart pressure, volume, and technical setups. This is growth. Fighters often plateau when they refuse to adapt, but Conor is showing he's willing to evolve. His words suggest the rematch isn't just about revenge, but about proving his boxing IQ matches his physical intensity. If he can balance that fire with focus, he becomes a very different fighter, and one who could seriously trouble Chris.
Regardless of my beef with Junior, regardless of whether I like him, whether I think he's arrogant, and I just can't stick him. He's not my cup of tea. Not everyone in this world's got to be your cup of tea. He ain't my cup of tea.
Conor Benn's honesty continues when he admits he doesn't like Chris, doesn't respect him personally, and simply can't stand him. That raw emotion has fueled their rivalry since the beginning. But then Conor shifts and acknowledges something bigger. Seeing Chris with his father, mending their relationship even for one night, was beautiful.
Having their father and son relationship mended, even if it was just for that night. What a beautiful thing to see.
Very well said.
This statement humanizes the rivalry. It shows that beneath the animosity, there's a recognition of legacy, family, and respect for the bonds that make boxing stories bigger than the fights themselves. For the rematch, this is significant because it highlights the balance Conor must strike. He doesn't have to like Chris to fight him, but he does need to separate personal feelings from professional performance. That duality, hatred on one side, respect for the bigger picture on the other, creates a fascinating tension. Fighters often talk about detachment, about keeping emotions in check. Conor admitting Chris is not his cup of tea, but still recognizing the deeper meaning of their shared stage shows he's evolving in how he processes rivalry. This mindset could allow him to channel his dislike into motivation without letting it cloud his discipline, which was his downfall in the first fight.
Do you think that he can be better in the rematch? My question is also, can you be better?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't really think about what he does or what he can do. You know, he used his tactics well, he used his weight, he used his size. And he comes strong in the later rounds.
Conor further reflects on the first fight, and this time, he doesn't blame controversy or external factors. He takes responsibility. He says clearly, Chris won because of his own lack of discipline. That kind of accountability is rare in boxing, where fighters often cry robbery or find excuses. Conor acknowledges that Chris used his size and tactics well, came on strong late, and did what was necessary to win. That level of self-awareness is powerful heading into a rematch. It means Conor isn't delusional. He knows exactly what went wrong and why. And if a fighter understands the problem, he can work on the solution.
Because I felt like he knew he was losing the fight. And yeah, he done well. He done what he needed to do to win. Because ultimately, people saying it's a robbery, saying it's this. It wasn't a robbery. The better man won on the night. And that was due to my lack of discipline.
This quote also reveals how dangerous Conor could be the second time around. If the only thing standing between him and victory was discipline, then a focused, tactical, and patient Conor Benn could look like a completely different fighter. By owning his mistakes, he removes the narrative of luck or robbery. Instead, he frames the rematch as a test of growth. Can he fix the flaws, stay composed, and outbox the man who once beat him? That makes the second fight more intriguing, because Conor isn't seeking revenge blindly. He's seeking redemption intelligently.
He needs a certain detachment in himself mentally. He needs to go into this fight with a lot more focus and a lot less hate. Yeah, and that was indicative of the fight. In the last few rounds, Chris won on volume, and Conor was still trying to fuel him out there with one shot, fueled with hate.
Gary Logan's perspective ties everything together. He argues that Conor needs detachment and must replace hate with focus. This hits the heart of the rematch storyline. The first fight showed us a Conor Benn who fought like a man possessed, driven by anger and emotion. But Logan points out how that energy betrayed him. He was throwing single power shots, trying to hurt Chris with hate rather than outworking him with volume. Meanwhile, Chris piled on combinations, used his output to win rounds, and walked away with the victory. For the rematch, Logan's advice is clear. Conor must fight with his head, not his heart. Hate is a poor strategy against someone as durable and composed as Chris Eubank Jr. Detachment. Discipline and technical execution are the keys. Logan's breakdown mirrors what Conor and Tony Sims have already admitted. Discipline was the missing piece. If Conor takes this advice to heart, we could see a version of him that is not only more dangerous, but more complete. And that's the version fans are hoping shows up on fight night. The build-up to Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn 2 2 has been a masterclass in mind games, respect, and redemption. Both fighters have evolved since the first clash. Chris has embraced discipline, preparation, and a surprising new role as the good guy in the public eye. Conor has faced his own shortcomings, admitted his mistakes, and vowed to return more disciplined, more calculated, and more focused. Analysts see the first fight as a blueprint, but also as an opportunity for change. Ben must adjust, Chris must reinforce. That tension sets the stage for a rematch that could eclipse the original. This isn't just another fight. It's personal. It's about legacy, growth, and proving who truly belongs at the top. And as the quotes reveal, both men are ready to bring their best. One thing is certain, this rematch is going to be big.